Good evening and welcome to our Passover and Maundy Thursday service. I am smiling joyously because today is a day of celebration in the Jewish tradition. The gathering Jesus was a part of that we remember tonight was a gathering of remembrance. The Passover Seder was a passionate meal where there is a careful script, a story that celebrates the journey to freedom that the Israelites took during the Exodus from the bondage in Egypt. This night is a special night. On this night, instead of eating at rigid table, we recline at the table. On this night, we dip bitter herbs to remind ourselves of the tears of our ancestors, not just once, but twice. On this night, this very special night, we eat haroset, a dish which reminds us of the mortar that is the affliction of the ancestors. On this night, we celebrate the work of God and the amazing deliverance that God has given the Hebrew people. The night begins with the lighting of the candles. Candles are lit, the recitation of the prayers begin. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bater banu mikol amvarum manu mikol lashon v'kidshanu b'mitzvot. Baruch atah Adonai emkadesh hashabat. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei pori hagafan. That last one, blessed are you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe, creator of the fruit of the vine. As the blessing takes place and as we begin our meal of celebration, it is important to know and remember that everyone is looking to Jesus to execute the Seder as they have learned it from their childhood. The candles are lit, the table is set, the meal is celebrated. At the beginning of the meal, there is a breaking and hiding of a piece of bread. Traditionally matzah, today we have a roll. But the matzah is put away, it's called the afkomen. And the afkomen is searched for later and found by the children, and the leader of the Seder takes the bread and lifts it up, offers a prayer for it, Baruch atah Adonai, and on it goes, and then breaks the afkomen as a special treat and says, the bread of our affliction, baked in haste and unable to rise, eat in remembrance of our ancestors. But as you know, Jesus broke the bread and said, this is my body, which is given for you. Do this in remembrance of me. Let us take the bread. This meal is celebrated with 4 cups of wine. And on the 4th cup, the tradition is to pour the cup give thanks for the cup, and then look to the door, standing expectantly for the arrival of Elijah, the precursor to the coming of the Messiah. But instead of looking to the door and offering the traditional statement, Jesus said, this cup is a new covenant in my blood, poured out for the forgiveness of sin. Drink of it, all of you, in remembrance of me. Let us drink the cup. And then the final act of the Passover Seder is before you finish the last cup of wine, there is a second toast of sorts in which they say, "Next year in Jerusalem." But instead, Jesus said, "Whenever you eat this bread and drink this cup, remember me." As we join together on this night, it is clear to those present that things are different. Things are a little odd. But it's a celebration. Or is it? Let us give thanks for the meal which we have received. Blessed are you, O God, creator of the universe. We give you thanks for the bread and the cup, reminders of our Lord Jesus Christ. Be with us as we retell the story and remember the move from celebration to the lowest of lows. Join with us in our worship and hear our heart's lament. Amen.
Then Jesus said to them, "You will all become deserters because of me this night, for it is written, I will strike the shepherd, and the sheep of the flock will be scattered. But after I am raised up, I will go ahead of you to Galilee." Peter said to him, "Though all become deserters because of you, I will never desert you." Jesus said to him, "Truly I tell you, this very night before the cock crows, you will deny me 3 times. And Peter said to him, "Even though I must die with you, I will not deny you." And so said all the disciples.
Then Jesus went with them to a place called Gethsemane, and he said to his disciples, "Sit here while I go over there and pray." He took with him Peter and the 2 sons of Zebedee, and began to be grieved and agitated. Then he said to them, "I am deeply grieved, even to death. Remain here and stay awake with me." And going a little farther, he threw himself on the ground and prayed, "My Father, if it is possible, let this cup pass from me. Yet not what I want, but what you want." Then he came to the disciples and found them sleeping, and he said to Peter, "So you could not stay awake with me for 1 hour? Stay awake and pray that you may not come into this time of trial. The spirit indeed is willing, but the flesh is weak." Again he went away for the 2nd time and prayed, "My Father, if this cannot pass unless I drink it, your will be done." Again he came and found them sleeping, for their eyes were heavy. So leaving them again, he went away and prayed for the third time, saying the same words. Then he came to the disciples and said to them, "Are you still sleeping and taking your rest? See, the hour is at hand, and the Son of Man is betrayed into the hands of sinners. Get up, let us be going. See, my betrayal is at hand."
Those who had arrested Jesus took him to Caiaphas, the high priest, in whose house the scribes and the elders had gathered. But Peter was following him at a distance as far as the courtyard of the high priest and going inside. He sat with the guards in order to see how this would end. Now the chief priests and the whole council were looking for false testimony against Jesus, so that they might put him to death. But they found none, though many false witnesses came forward. At last 2 came forward and said, "This fellow said, 'I am able to destroy the temple of God and to build it in 3 days.'" The high priest stood up and said, "Have you no answer? What is it that they testify against you?" But Jesus was silent. Then the priest said to him, "I put you under oath before the living God. Tell us if you are the Messiah, the Son of God." Jesus said to him, "You have said so. But I tell you, from now on you will see the Son of Man seated at the right hand of power and coming on the clouds of heaven." Then the high priest tore his clothes and said, "He has blasphemed. Why do we still have witnesses? You have heard his blasphemy. What is your verdict?" They answered, "He deserves death." Then they spat in his face and struck him, and some slapped him, saying, "Prophesy to us, you Messiah. Who is it that struck you?"
Now Jesus stood before the governor, and the governor asked him, "Are you the king of the Jews?" Jesus said, "You say so." But when he was accused by the chief priests and elders, he did not answer. Then Pilate said to him, "Do you not hear how many accusations they make against you?" But he gave him no answer, not even to a single charge, so that the governor was greatly amazed. Now at the festival, the governor was accustomed to release a prisoner for the crowd, anyone whom they wanted. At that time, they had a notorious prisoner called Jesus Barabbas. So after they had gathered, Pilate said to them, "Whom do you want me to release to you, Jesus Barabbas or Jesus who is called the Messiah?" For he realized that it was out of jealousy that they had handed him over. While he was sitting on the judgment seat, his wife sent word to him, "Have nothing to do with that innocent man, for today I have suffered a great deal because of a dream about him." Now the chief priests and the elders persuaded the crowd to ask for Barabbas and to have Jesus killed. The governor asked again said to them, "Which of the two do you want me to release to you?" And they said, "Barabbas." Pilate said to them, "Then what should I do with Jesus, who is called the Messiah?" All of them said, "Let him be crucified." Then he asked, "Why, what evil has he done?" But they shouted all the more, "Let him be crucified."
Then the soldiers of the governor took Jesus into the governor's headquarters, and they gathered the whole cohort around him. They stripped him, and they put a scarlet robe on him. And after twisting some thorns into a crown, they put it on his head. They put a reed in his right hand and knelt before him and mocked him, saying, "Hail, King of the Jews!" They spat on him and took the reed and struck him on the head. After mocking him, they stripped him of the robe and put his own clothes on him. Then they led him away to crucify him.
As they went out, they came upon a man from Cyrene named Simeon. They compelled this man to carry his cross. And when they came to a place called Golgotha, which means place of the skull, they offered him wine to drink, mixed with gall. But when he tasted it, he would not drink it. And when they had crucified him, they divided his clothes among themselves by casting lots. Then they sat down there and kept watch over him. Over his head, they put the charge against him, which read, "This is Jesus, the King of the Jews."
From noon on, darkness came over the whole land until 3 in the afternoon. And about 3 o'clock, Jesus cried with a loud voice, Eloi, Eloi, lema sabachthani. That is, my God, why have you forsaken me? When some of the bystanders heard it, they said, This man is calling for Elijah. At once one of them ran and got a sponge, filled it with sour wine, put it on a stick, and gave it to him to drink. But the others said, Wait, let us see whether Elijah will come to save him. Then Jesus cried again with a loud voice and breathed his last.
Were you there when they crucified my Lord? Were you there when they crucified my Lord? Oh, sometimes it causes me to tremble. Were you there when they crucified my Lord?